Okay, time for some quick thoughts on the Berzerk Deluxe Edition, Volume 2. I don't know if I did a full Rambly talk on this one, so maybe I'll save that for later for like a nice video essay. But this mostly collects the Golden Era arc. We don't quite get to the part where Griffith does something wrong. And the Golden Era arc it's the reason I got into Berserk, because of the OVA, which focuses on this arc. So it's Shakespearean. Every character has a deep moral quandary that determines who they are, and their character is determining their destiny. So, and it's explicit, it's X-rated, but I think in Volume 2, it's still it isn't doing porny stuff with it. Like there's implied rape, there's implied molestation, there's some brutal kills. But I think that where the heart of it lies is that although Guts was abused as a child, that abuse has caused him to have long-lasting trauma. So what we thought about him in the first book, oh, he's just an edgy, dark boy who likes swinging around a big sword. We find out that he isn't just an edgy, dark boy. He has a lasting pain that he carries with him. And not only was he abused, he finds out that his adopted father essentially sold him as a sexual slave. So there's an element of betrayal as well as abuse. And Guts is trying to become a big, strong man and swing a gigantic sword to cope with this feeling of fear and isolation. His character is contrasted. There are many other secondary characters, but the main two he is contrasted with are Griffith and Casca. I'll see if I can find a picture of them. Griffith is sort of like the light to Guts's dark. And what I love about Griffith is he's a well-done satanic character, Luciferian. Griffith has, flowing, long white hair. He looks like an angel of light, like Lucifer. He seems to be like a King Arthur figure, and this charisma really causes people to have powerful loyalty to him. But underneath the surface, we actually know from like Volume 1 that something's going to go wrong. There's some evil twist, and we don't know what it is, but we do start getting our first creepy hints that under the knightly, chivalrous exterior, is a black, cold heart that will do anything it needs to do to achieve his political ambitions. Casca is really well handled because she's a believable woman trying to survive in a manly knight's world, sort of like Brienne of Tarth. If you give a girl a sword and she whips her sword around and beats 100 men in medieval combat, that's ridiculous. It's not believable. But if you give a woman a sword and say, because of her circumstances, she's forced to live like this, and the fact that she is a woman is treated, it's weird in this world for a woman to be a knight. And we frequently get reminders that if Casca is kidnapped by the enemy, she could be raped. At one point, she has her period in the middle of a battle. So there's a strong point of reminding us that Casca has to struggle to be strong and be taken seriously in spite of the fact that she's a woman and in spite of her weakness. So she's a courageous character rather than just like a magical I beat anybody with a sword character. And she hates Guts at first because Griffith orders Casca to lay with Guts to keep him more warm and keep him from freezing to death. And this humiliates her. He's basically saying, you're a woman, so you lie with him. And her whole life has been trying to arise from her poor circumstances, escape sexual servitude, and become an independent person like a man. So Griffith essentially humiliates her, makes her feel, reminds her of the fact that she is just a woman. And it's great because it's also a reminder that Griffith has a cruel side to him. Guts sort of falls in love with Griffith in a way. It's sort of like Griffith is the first trustworthy friend he's had, and he finally seems to have a home. And so he kills and uses his strength on Griffith's behalf. But Guts isn't thinking about what he wants and whether Griffith is someone worth following. So in a lot of, they fight a demon, and the demon kind of hints darkly that one of you is a demon, dun dun dun, kind of bold Shakespearean language. So it's like the Macbeth prophecy. Someone's plotting against the king. Griffith starts making political moves on the princess, and Also, he has to kind of like shove aside the king's younger brother, who's his main political rival. So he uses Guts as an assassin, sort of reminiscent of Crime and Punishment. Guts goes to kill the prince, who's an awful man, but then he accidentally strikes down the prince's son, who's young and innocent. And this tears at Guts because when he met the prince's son, and he saw the prince's son, he saw some of himself in that boy. This is a boy who has an abusive father. Guts sees himself in that Gambino betrayed him and used him and abused him, right? So Guts, because he wasn't thinking and because he was just sort of blindly following Griffith, ends up with a murder on his conscience. And Guts is the kind of person where he actually feels deep regret and deep guilt over something like this, because he's not a cold-hearted person. He actually feels for this young man. So I think this is the incident that sort of forces Guts to realize that he can't just be Griffith's loyal servant. If he wants to be Griffith's friend and an equal to Griffith, he has to strike it out on his own and make his own decisions. So in the midst of a battle, when Casca's having her period and can barely stand, Griffith rescues her, and she's furious about this because she's still annoyed at Guts and how blunt and kind of roughly masculine he is. Guts isn't a very smooth man. He's forced to lie with her naked again to keep her warm and keep her from getting hypothermia, so she's ticked and embarrassed about that. But she finally confides her story in Guts, which is that she was going to be sold as a slave by her father. She was going to be raped, and at the last minute, Griffith arrives and gives her a sword and says, if you have something to protect yourself. And again, Griffith is straddling this line between seemingly being a kingly, chivalrous man, but there's a deeply disturbing element to that. Technically, Griffith saves her, but he doesn't intervene himself and save her. He just gives her a sword and says, you save yourself. And I think Casca interprets this as Griffith trying to teach her about self-reliance and standing up for yourself. But what it really suggests is that Griffith was fine with her getting raped and not intervening himself. So again, we keep getting this repeating element. He's like a king. He's noble. He's inspiring. He's charismatic. But there's something wrong under the surface of it. And there's also a great angle where both Casca and Guts have trouble touching people. Guts can't stand to be touched by men because of his memories of being abused. Guts kind of finds women weird and difficult and doesn't want to be with her, and lying with someone basically triggers Guts's PTSD about his own abuse. And Casca has some of these feelings of fear of abuse as well that keeps her from being close to someone. So she's attached her sentiments to Griffith, a man we already kind of know isn't worthy of those sentiments despite his charisma, and she's resentful of Guts because she kind of like blames him for things that aren't his fault. So it's a beautiful love story because Casca and Guts have the same problem, and Guts actually has sort of like the noble and heroic qualities that Griffith seems to have on the surface. I think this volume also, I don't recall if they talked about Griffith's selling himself out as a sex slave to fund his mercenary troop, but basically all of these are broken people, and some of the trauma that Griffith suffered was inflicted on himself in the name of his goal. Griffith is purely devoted to his ambition of becoming the king. Guts and Casca want happiness and they want a home. And Griffith seems to be the person who's providing them with that home and that purpose and that mission. But really, Casca and Guts could make a potentially wholesome husband and wife couple because they want the same thing. They just don't realize that the other person can provide them that thing. So it's really artfully done. This is my favorite arc. We're still getting some X-rated stuff. It isn't as bad, I think, as some of the later volumes. So I'll do some more videos as I read through it.